last minute. I appreciate it. So before we dive in, I wanted to do something just a little bit different, and then obviously we'll dive in for Q&A or whatever. But there's a quote by Jerry Sternin that I read today, and it says, "It's easier to act your way into a new way of thinking than to think your way into a new way of acting." So I'm going to say it one more time. But he says, "It's easier to act your way into a new way of thinking than to think your way into a new way of acting." So with that said, basically it's saying like we attract what we already embody, right? So when you think about your next level, how can you commit to embodying that next level? I'd love to hear that from you guys. Like, what is something that you can do? It can be a day-to-day action. It could be something you're already doing, but I would love to hear like how you feel like you can embody that next level.
I feel like for me, more of like showing up for myself and being consistent is how I can embody. Because I notice like as I'm becoming more consistent and just spending a little bit more time doing more stuff, I'm starting to see, more progress. And so I feel like that's something for me that would help me get to that point.
I love that. I love that. I read another quote too, and it says, "We attract not what we necessarily think, but who we are." So like, who are you and who do you need to be to attract that thing you want? So embodying that next level is a dope idea. And then showing up for yourself, I think that's powerful. Because if you don't show up for yourself, how can anyone else show up for you, right? So it starts right there with you showing up for yourself. So I love that. Thank you. Thank you.
So for me, I've actually listened to all types of, self-help, motivational speakers say this. And then after having the meeting we had with Katie, this solidified it all. I literally start forming my day as if I'm already like a super busy millionaire. Like, ooh, I'm not talking on the phone to nobody unless it's business. And I literally time my phone calls. Like, I'll have people text me after I deny their call, "Do you have time to talk?" And I'll tell them I have 5 minutes. And so we'll get on the phone and talk. And I say, "Okay, I have a call coming in. I have to go. Love you. Let's get on the schedule to talk another time." Like, you know what I'm saying? And, I'll go ahead and get off the phone with them. And I might not have a call coming in, but I have stuff that I need to be focused on. So shaping my day, literally from the time that I wake up and I have something very specific to do, mapping my day out, hour to hour. What am I doing from the time I wake up all the way up until the time I go to sleep, and do the same thing every single time the same way. And I think what I keep hearing about is changing your daily habits. And so my daily habits have to be conducive to me being that person who is constantly booking contracts, constantly booking appointments, constantly, you know what I mean? So
Yes.
if I'm moving that way now, I just feel like I'm going to draw that to me. That's my mission, is to just be that way now. So literally I'm scheduling, like I'm scheduling in me doing my own hair. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'll put that on my schedule. Like, that's scheduled time. And then I'll tell people that time's blocked off. I won't even say what I'm doing. That time's blocked off. And I have to put it in my mind not to put anything else there. I don't have any time else for anything but that's it. And I think that in the past, what I've done is I have written stuff down, but then I'd be like, "Oh, I don't have to do that right now." Well, I don't look at it like that anymore. But if I write it down, it's solid and it has to happen. And the reason why I want to do that is I want to condition myself for when I actually do have paying clients. And I have to have that time, solid and solidified for them specifically, and be intentional and accountable to it.
I love that so much. Boundaries are so important. I was just actually talking to Germany about that recently, to like set the intention, like going into sessions, like, hey, I have a call, here in an hour or whatever, or I have something coming up in an hour, to really set that intention. So you already doing that is huge. And then I love that you're also setting boundaries around the things that you're taking in. Because sometimes the people that we love, they call us, but they don't necessarily want anything. And so our time can be used in different ways. and we're
Mm-mm.
with them. And I think that that is so important. Like, I mean, so important. I had a really good call with one of my closest friends today, but I hadn't talked to her in probably the last like 2 months. And it's not, it was all love. Like we didn't skip a beat, but it was just, I was like hyper focused on some of these things. And I had to be intentional around setting boundaries to get things done. And the right people understand and respect those boundaries. So I'm really proud of you
The
to
right
all
people.
put those in place. The right people. Yep. I'm proud of you to
Yep, that's
already
right.
put that in place. Because you're putting yourself in position to already call in that next level. So that's amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing that. Boundaries are a big piece of this work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ms. Johnny.
Yes, yes, yes.
Hey, so I love, first of all, kudos to Alexis, girl, because first of all, that all I'm gonna have to start doing all of that because the
Yes.
whole call with people, like it was something like that actually happened today for me where someone called me and boom, jumped right into what their issue was. And it was like, hold on. And I'm actually proud of myself for what I did because I was like, okay, listen, they sent me the text message first and then I didn't answer for my boundaries reasons, but then they called me like, listen, like I just sent you a text, blah, 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 you know, like, but I didn't answer because I don't have the time for that right now. And I said that, I'm like, I don't have the time, like I didn't answer because of that. But it was like, you know, no, I'm just saying, I have to get out. I can't do that for you. So I love that you did that because like that just helped confirm what I actually experienced today. So kudos to you. And then I actually love that you said that, you know, 5 minutes, you know, let them know that 5 minutes. I'm in my state of mind right now. I'm super focused. Even if I don't have nothing going on, it's the whole piece and everything that you're like protecting and about to get ready to do. You're already embodying and coming in. So that's what's up. Okay. And as far as like what you Shamika about the consistency, that's the exact same thing that I'm actually doing too. But as far as like embodying it for me, I think for me it would be the belief, embodying the actual belief, like the mindset of actually stepping into this new level and like being the coach, the standout person, actually believing in my abilities, actually believing in like having a stronger faith in myself than I do in the doubts of my life. So I'm actually doing that. And so when I show up, I'm not showing up in like scared, like, oh, can I really do this? It's like, no, yeah, I can do this. It's just that I'm just not, I don't have as much practice right now, but I'm already that person. I'm just working my way there. So so as far as embodying it, that's what I would say my embodying is more coming from, you know, mental down and coming into my, like, you know, into my energy more so. And the schedule thing, as far as like getting back to journaling and doing all of the things that I'm actually trying to teach other people. So if I'm teaching other people about EFT, I want to embody that so that I can be able to tell people about that. So I want to be real, you know, I want to be authentic. I want to be able to speak from experience. So that is my way of like, you know, embodying that. And you can't think, like what you said, you think your way in action. I don't know if you said it like that, but I can't think that, you know, I have to do that stuff in order to have the experience. And it's also different when you have your client than versus when you're practicing with a practice client, or we're practicing our modalities on a phone call. When you actually have your client that's paying you and you get to see what's happening, you're like, oh, okay, so yeah, everything that I was actually doing, you know, it's actually going to show up here because I actually did it. So that's what I'm doing on my end.
I love that. So 2 things I posted that kind of overlap with that is I posted faith and fear are literally 2 sides of the same coin, right? The difference is faith feeds your future, fear feeds your stagnancy. Fear keeps you stuck in that same place. So you're talking about like, how can I feed that? How can I feed that belief in myself, which is huge. And then with that, did you see that I posted about an evidence list? That's something that I've been really, really big on. So like, this is an example. So Alexis has been going live all week. So let's say, for example, Alexis has a video that says, you know, no one ever wants to listen to my lives. Alexis could log back in and say, okay, you know what, so-and-so commented on this live, so-and-so joined this live, so-and-so shared this live,
Mhm.
so-and-so said that, you know, this really spoke to them, whatever. Now that's evidence that somebody wants to hear from you. And so I keep, even when you guys give me compliments or whatever, one of the things that I do is I screenshot it. Sometimes I share them and sometimes I don't, right? And I have a folder in my phone that when I'm, you know, questioning like, oh man, am I an imposter? And does anyone ever, you know, care about what I'm talking about? Does anyone believe in what I see, or that kind of thing? I go into that folder in my photo album and I just read it. It reminds me like people do care, like it does matter, you know? And so I would challenge you, all of you actually, but Germany, you really triggered this thought of mine to create an evidence list. Like those fears that are coming up for you, create evidence that proves the opposite. So like Shamika, let's say, you know, you're ready to publish your next podcast and you're like, you know, is anyone going to listen? Remember that first day when you shared it in group and everyone was like, share it with me. Oh my gosh, I love it. And now you got a guest that's coming up on your podcast because of that, but like you sharing it. So remind yourself of those to create evidence that people literally want to hear from you, or whatever it is, that fear that's coming up. I got started on that as soon as I watched that and saved the stuff people said about my life. Yes, I love that. I love that. Evidence list is so powerful.
And I was gonna say, I actually did that too. Like when you said that about the evidence list, I started that too. I created my photo. I started screenshotting everything, and I started like putting it in the little folder because it is helpful.
It is. That's why when you sent me that testimonial that the lady gave you, I'm like, girl, save that somewhere. Like lock that in, anchor it.
I personally started an evidence list, but speaking of the podcast, I was at first like, oh, I don't think anyone will listen to me. And I had posted my last episode, and through the feed, like the RSS feed, it tells you, and it popped up like in 3 new states on the map. And I was like, oh wow, like people actually listening to me. Okay. So I think I'm actually gonna start doing evidence lists. I like that idea.
That would have been a perfect thing to screenshot, that 3 extra states. Like that was huge. I remember when Andrea signed up for this program, like she was my first person out of the States. And I was like, oh my gosh, like the Elevate Method just went like international, basically, you know. And I screenshot me writing that, like the Elevate Method just went international, because that was a big milestone for me. So yeah, even those like simple screenshots can be really, really powerful. And that's amazing. Like, look at you, like reaching people in all over the country. That's amazing. Erica, welcome. Really quick, I'll give you a second to think about it, but I just asked them a question to kind of like start the call today, but I read this quote, and I'll put it in the chat too, but I'll say it since I see you driving. But it says, it's easier to act your way into a new way of thinking than to think your way into a new way of acting. So essentially, when I think of this quote, I think about like, how are you acting, or how can you begin to act like your next level self to be able to attract and to call in those things that you're ready to call in? Like, what are you doing now that's already creating space for that to happen? So like Alexa shared that she's already creating a calendar as if she has room for a client, so that when she's ready to, so she's showing basically the world, I'm ready to call in those clients. So if you have that answer, definitely let us know. If you need a minute, we can open up for some of the questions.
I actually do. I don't know what it is lately with being able to like have these easy, I like to call them easy mic moments where I already have the answer. I'm ready. Okay, so hey everybody. I don't even know where to start because I've literally felt myself embody the importance of acting, like conducting myself in that next level version of myself. I literally started a new Instagram page last week, and I battled within myself about it because I was like, you need to get what you got already going before you go starting something new. But I really felt it because I realized that I've been operating in this space of talking about what I went through and how I got over it, and not talking enough about being in this season of thriving. And so in order to really embody that next level version of myself, so the new Instagram page is called The Thriving Place. And while I feel like an element of joy and happiness of being in that thriving place, I haven't even fully manifested it. So I feel like I'm kind of in a space of, like embracing the tip of the iceberg of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because there's so much more that, like, there's a fullness of embodying being in a place of thriving that I'll not only be able to teach, but I feel like I literally have to go through everything that I teach because it makes for a better platform. It makes for a better way of allowing people to learn, what I've been through, or learning how they can overcome and get to that thriving place, and how to manage being in that thriving place. Because I know right now what's really in my spirit about this is learning how to receive for myself, because I never even envisioned that would be something difficult. So learning that part so that I can share that as a part of the foundation of being in the thriving place. You have to be willing to receive to being that thriving place. So yes, I think I answered your question.
Oh,
And can I add something to that, Erica? Because let me tell you something, that is the bomb, first of all, the bomb. And I just wanted to add, I wanted to piggyback on that, because what I heard was, you said, I was going to battle with myself, but I went ahead and made that step. What you did was you made room to receive that opportunity to embody your new self. You made room. You had to, and this is one of my biggest things that I was talking to one of my personal peoples last week. Like, you got to make room. And that's what you did. You made room. You said, this ain't no room for this no more. Let me go ahead and put this over here, and let me open this up, because I'm ready to receive. I'm not going to start hollering. Okay, yeah. So that was good. That was so good.
It was
Oh my
so
Yes.
good. Oh my gosh, it was so good, because what you said too is you have to experience it to be able to really to teach it. And I love that so much, because
Yeah.
you are living, walking proof of the courage to walk away, and now of moving into that thriving place, which I think is so beautiful. And I'm like excited to see that thriving place thrive, and like how that grows and how that supports women. One of the things that I know about receiving is that it starts with small things. So like, even when people compliment you, being able, you ever say, like, somebody says, oh, I like your hair, and you're like, oh,
Yes.
this is so, oh my
Yes.
gosh, I can't wait to get it done.
Yes.
It starts with the small stuff, being able to even receive as simple as like compliments. And it's so funny. My brother sent me a Mother's Day gift, and he's getting ready, his baby is due any day now, and this is his first baby, and he sent me a Mother's Day gift, which I'm like, dude, you got our mom, you got your wife to think about. And I started to justify all the reasons why I didn't deserve this Mother's Day gift, right? And then I'm like, no, just write him. I wrote this whole long text about, like, you didn't have to do that, and did it. And I was like, no, write him back and just say thank you. Like,
Thank you
so much for that. Like, that's it, because I'm worthy of receiving. But it's that constant build up to prepare yourself to receive. Because here's the thing, if you can't receive small things, it's harder to receive the bigger things. And it's like, even when I know we were talking about pricing, like the pricing model a couple of weeks ago, and it's like, you do kind of have to start at a price that feels comfortable, and then you work your way up to a price that feels safe. But it starts with you even realizing that you can receive money for the work that you're doing. And so it starts with receiving compliments, and then it starts with, receiving other, building that way up. So I love that you talked about the receiving place, because you are or receiving peace, because you are so worthy of that. And thank you for touching on that.
Thank you.
That spirit spoke to me about that yesterday morning after getting a compliment. And always feeling like you have to give one back. That was me. Oh my goodness. It's crazy. It's crazy how we're conditioned around that.
Such a good topic. Such a good topic, Nicolia, Dr. Nicolia. Such a good topic.
Yeah, and like it's so important, especially for us as women. Like, yeah, I think it's so important. So important. You guys, I love these like next level embodiment things that you are already doing or already were aware that you wanted to start doing. That's a huge step. So I'm really impressed with you guys. Not shocked at all, because you guys are amazing, but super impressed. Okay, so now that we've got that out the way, what questions are coming up as we move into the month of May?
For me, I have, okay, so one of my big questions was, in order to do masters, do we have to be done with this level?
Wonderful
practitioner
question. You, my friend, will definitely be done. You're already right there. But so masters, the actual live training is in July. We will start the pre stuff starting in about 2 weeks. It's like the middle of May. I don't remember the exact day.
I thought the date was May 11th.
Yeah, it's either going to be May 11th or May 18th. Me and Siobhan are meeting on Friday to finalize that day, but it'll be once a week all the way up until July, and then we'll do that whole 7 days. So you won't have to be done until the beginning of July. The pre-study stuff, you'll already have a good foundational view of that piece. Yep. So I think you'll be in great shape.
Yeah, I think I have like 7 more videos to do. And so I had another question as far as like when we're in coaching sessions, because now my questions are more towards like when I'm actually with my client. So let's just say my client is rambling off, right? Like venting, like off. And I'm just listening, like I'm supposed to be doing, like a coach, and I'm asking questions like I'm supposed to be asking, to that. But then I realized that it's taking too long. Like it's going too far into that specific thing. And so, so for me, I asked everything. What do you have planned for this session? Like, what is your expectations of this session? She let me know. But I did ask later, but it was just more so of like setting the intention. I set the intention before. I came with my paper. I came with everything was mapped out, but it was so easy for her to go to vent mode instead of like staying on track. Now I know I'm supposed to pace lead. And so I thought about that. Like, okay, I'm supposed to pace lead. So, let her get it out. Ask her the questions, let her get it out, and then jump in there and lead. And I kept trying to do that, but it would literally come all the way back. So for me, I was sitting here pondering after that whole day, or after that moment, and I was like, what can I do to, like, what is the verbiage? Like, how will I actually say what I need to say to pull her back to, like, okay, now we're spending too much time on this. We kind of need to get to this, without being rude. Because for me, my personality is I don't like to be like rude, or I don't like know how to really like jump in there and like assert myself in that type of situation. So what type of, I guess I'm asking how to steer it into the right direction.
I actually think what you could do starting the next session is you could set that intention. So you can be like, if we're going to talk about whatever, there may be times that you notice that I interrupt you, and it's not to be rude, but it's more so to get us to make sure we address that. Because essentially what you want to do is you want to break their hold. You want to, oh my gosh, like the hierarchy of ideas, a chunk up and chunk down. Sorry, is what I was trying to get to, chunk up or chunk down. So, but you can't do that if they're word vomiting. And so just explaining that, like, hey, I don't mean to be rude, but there may be moments that I interrupt because I want to break down what you're bringing up. I want to be able to address the things that you're bringing up. In the moment, I will say that it is so awkward. So typically, like when the first session that I've had with clients, I can always gauge typically how they are. And then it's hard to like interrupt them when you're in it. I have had to do that, but you could also do the same thing when you're interrupting them. Like, oh my goodness, you brought up a really good point. Can we stop for a moment? Can we pause for a moment and address that piece? And then kind of address that piece. I had actually a male client who was very, very, very similar. And it felt kind of almost embarrassing a little bit to interrupt him. But I made sure I let him know, like, this is from a place of me wanting to support you, not from a place of me not wanting to hear you. And I think it's also important for you to know that, like, it doesn't really, as much as it probably feels good for her, it doesn't really support her to word vomit. Like that's not going to get the change work, right? She has to create space for that change work to happen. So reinforcing that to yourself, that even though, and telling her too, like, I don't mean to be rude, but reminding yourself that it's not you actually being rude, it's actually you wanting to use these tools that you know is going to get her that transformation that she's seeking. And you can say that too.
And actually, and everything that you're saying, I actually did. Like, I when it was too much, I realized, I said, okay, yeah, so now we're going to get back to the packet. What our intentions was, I stated the intentions and everything. And I went back, and it was just so easy for her to keep on doing that. So then, like, eventually, like at the end, I asked her, like, what should we do? And she told me, and then we got straight into that. But like what you said, to let her know, I did say that. I was like, I don't mean to be rude, but I want to get you results. So as far as, you know, what do you want results in? Because we're talking about this on this paper, you know, but then you're saying this. So I want to be able to bring that to you. This is exactly why I'm here. So I was pretty, I mean, I didn't say it like that. I mean, it's similar, but I was being honest. I did do that. I was like, you know, I'm trying to, I want to get you results. So what I did was I told her, I say, what I want you to do for next time is to think about what you want to talk about, or think about your goal for next, or your intention for the next session. I want to work to get us some results. So I want to move towards working on your goals and this and this and that. So I tried to do it again. So for next session, hopefully it could be like that.
You're literally probably undoing her pattern and her way of processing. Even like, so I think about myself as a clinical counselor. A lot of clinical work is talk therapy. So people just talk and you just create space for people to listen, which is helpful to some extent. But really, we know how our subconscious mind works. And our subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between reality or what's made up or what you're recycling that now feels very real. So if there's a point where it's important to share what's on your mind so that you know how to address it, but to keep reliving it and to dive into it and keep, you know, regurgitating it over and over again, it's actually not even supportive. And so what you're doing is you're teaching her something she's never essentially learned. Like she probably sits on the phone with her friends and vents and is like, oh my gosh, girl, let me tell you about this, 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 and this. And that's normal because that's how we as women are, right? For the most part. And so you're trying to undo that. And so part of that process, part of this coaching process is also teaching her to reframe what support looks like. And so that is going to take work, and it's probably going to be uncomfortable on both ends, but it's for the bigger picture goal. So I say all of that to say that the fact that you already did everything that I just named shows that you already know what you're doing, right?
Okay.
And it's just constantly reinforcing it, constantly setting that tone. I you know, when people like that also with time wise, you also want to be really clear with those boundaries. So I think your sessions are like an hour every week, just saying like, hey, remember our session in this hour. So what I would love to do is I'd love to open up and talk about what's coming up for you, you know, what's being triggered for you. And then we can dive into the change work. Does that sound like a good fit? I do that on my discovery calls. When I talk to people, I say, you know, I'm so great to talk, you know, I always do the report, like, where are you located and what's the weather today and how are you feeling and that kind of thing. And then I'll say, okay, I want to stop and say, you know, this is how this call will run. So this call is 30 minutes long. And typically I'd love to hear more about you and your vision. As I'm listening to your vision, I'll start to really contemplate and think about if this feels like an aligned fit in the way in which I can support you. And if it does, we can talk together about that next step and what feels good for you. Does that sound okay? And then they'll say yes or whatever. And then I'll say, okay, so for that, we have about 30 minutes. So I'd love to hear a little bit about you now. So I set that kind of intention in the beginning. I do have people that will, you know, push it, but still kind of reminding them again is important. So it takes work, you know, it takes a lot of work in the beginning, but I think that constant reinforcement, she's going to learn a lot. And especially if she ends up being like a long-term client. I know you guys are doing 12 weeks, but who's to say 12 weeks is when it stops? Like I see the work you're already doing with her, and she might say, okay, I want another 12-week package. Like I want another 12-week deal or whatever. And now you started to teach her these things that you guys build upon for the next segment of time that you work together.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. That's helpful. That's really helpful.
Yay. Glad that was helpful. Andrea, welcome. We did a really brief thing in the beginning. I want to give you a second to think about it. I'll answer like one more question while you're thinking, then I want to come back because I want to hear. So I read a quote and it like really, really spoke to me. But the quote said, it's easier to act your way into a new way of thinking than to act your way. It's easier to act your way into a new way of thinking than to think your way into a new way of acting. So essentially, I feel like the way I interpreted this quote is like, if we want to really create space for our next level, how are we acting like that now? How are we behaving? How are we embodying that next level? And so I've had people share, like Alexis, I had a really good one where she talked about her schedule already looks like what her schedule is going to look like when she's $1 million coach, the way she's blocking off her time, the way she's dedicated to herself, that kind of thing. So she has room for calling in new clients. Erica talked about this new branch of her business that she's building. Shamika talked about visibility and like really showing up for herself. Oh my gosh, I forgot Germany's that quick. She had a good one too. Like, what do you guys remember Germany's?
Yeah, so Germany was saying that she was actually embodying the belief that she is that standout coach, that she is going to be, but not thinking of it as I'm going to be, more of I am that standout coach already. So like she's practicing that belief.
Yeah, I was saying like from the mental, like I was practicing embodying it from a mental state, from like actually having faith in my belief of actually being a coach. Yeah.
Love that. So I would love for you to think maybe about what you're doing now to embody that next level. So I'm going to come back to you in a little bit. Is that okay? Andrea, can you hear me?
Sorry. I thought you were talking to Germany. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. I was saying, so like what we were talking about is we were talking about like embodying the next level. Like all of us were talking about what it looks like to embody the next level and what we're doing now to embody that next level. So I would love for you to like, just think about that for a little bit. I'm going to take like another question and then I want to come back to hear
Okay.
like what
Okay.
you're doing to embody that next level. Is that okay?
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Perfect.
Okay, cool means. Okay. What other questions are coming up, guys? Yeah, I love your hair like that too. It's so cute, Andrea.
Hey,
Hey, I had
you.
one question.
Hey, Daddy.
Mommy. I know,
you.
baby.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, sir.
Mommy,
Now-
mommy, look. I
Somebody
see
else can go.
baseball.
Okay. We can come back to you. Erica or Shamika, do you guys have a question coming up yet?
I don't have a question right now, no.
Okay. It's okay.
I have a question, but I don't know how to word it.
Let's try it. Let's see if I can decipher between the words.
So the scenario is that, and I don't know if you saw my post, but I got like a promotion on my job for a position that I've been seeking my entire career. So I'm not just getting rid of the coaching practice, but it's something that will be more supplemental than it is, you know, like a full-time entrepreneurship venture type thing.
Okay.
And so I'm just trying to, so in my head, like if it just ended up being book sales, that would be awesome. But I don't really want my coaching certification to be reduced to book sales, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So I guess the question is, what's the best way to navigate this now that I'm making it more of a part-time venture?
So
I'm gonna mute.
okay. Do you see yourself still using this coach? Because like I know for you, you talked a lot about the new, oh my gosh, what was it called? The transition, the Thriving Place. You talked a lot about the Thriving Place. Do you see yourself using that as like speaking engagement? Do you see yourself using that one-on-one? And the reason I ask is because I think it was like 2 months ago, Germany had her first speaking engagement. And she talked about how she taught like some of the foundational pieces of NLP. And so how she used that certification in that speaking engagement and how like it blew people away. Like it's some of the things that we know simply, right? But things that people are like, whoa, I've never heard that. And it almost made her stand out as a speaker. Same thing as a coach. So let's say you do this as a supplemental piece. That doesn't mean that you can't have, you can't have 1 to 2 clients a week that you're teaching them how to create the thriving place like within their life, within their mentality, using these mindset tools. Like, for example, tapping. How do they tap into that thriving place? How do they anchor their confident place or whatever? So there's a lot of creative ways without having to be the foundational, without it having to only be in books, but you could also still use it and write books with it. So there's a lot of creative ways in which you can use these modalities and these lessons to still weave it into what you're doing.
Got it. That's great insight. Thank you.
Does that make sense?
It does. It absolutely does.
Okay, good. And I think
Thank you.
as you build out this thriving place and really start to feel into it, and you mentioned like as you embody it and live it yourself, that's how you will teach it. I feel like as you start to teach it, and as you start to even go through these modalities, I think it's going to give you a lot of creative ideas too, of like, oh man, I could totally see, how I could use this. I remember when I was learning mapping across for those that haven't already done the mapping across is to go from like to dislike. So it is the craziest experience ever. I stopped liking peanut butter cookies, which were like the people at Subway knew my name because I would get peanut butter cookies so much. Like I actually can't even be around them, don't want them. They don't appeal to me at all because I use this technique called mapping across. Well, long story short, when I was trying to become certified, I offered this session to a college friend of mine for like $50, and I did a mapping across session with her. And she had a really unfortunate circumstance where her fiance died suddenly in a car accident. And so she was devastated, absolutely devastated. And because as a result of it, she had a lot of emotional eating. And so not only was she devastated, she started to just not be herself. Like she had gained something crazy, like 50 pounds. She wasn't engaging with her kids, all these things. So it just felt like she had so much weight on her. So even though I wasn't doing grief work, I was doing a lot of work around healing after hurt, like a lot of work around that. And so she signed up for this mapping across session. She had an addiction to breakfast bars, and she would buy these like Kellogg's breakfast bars and eat like some crazy number, like 12 breakfast bars a day. And so I was like, well, I'm gonna try this mapping across. Like, I mean, it doesn't hurt. And I told her, like, I'm being certified. I'm not sure I know what I'm doing. And we did the mapping across, and she totally stopped eating breakfast bars. Like, she shared that the next day on her break from work, she would always walk to the gas station and buy a breakfast bar. She's like, I didn't even want to walk past it. Like, I just didn't want anything to do with it. And so I would say probably within about 2 months, she had dropped something crazy, like 22 pounds or something, but she started to feel like herself. So even though I didn't even know how I would ever use mapping across, I'm a coach. I don't really use mapping across. It still came in handy in this healing session with her. So I think as you start to learn these modalities and these tools, you're going to find creative ways to say, oh my God, I could totally see how this will help the thriving place, or how this can contribute to the courage to walk away, or how I can create an ebook and sell an ebook that could be impactful to people. So I think a lot of ideas will come. And I'm glad that you're open to those ideas.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Andrea, we're back to you. I'd love to hear the embodiment. I want to hear what you're either thinking of doing or maybe something you're already doing.
Okay, so actually it was one of my questions too. So before, when I had what's what I'm looking for? The desire to become a coach. Like I had it in my spirit that I want to become a coach. What I did was I Facebook group, because it started by like me just posting encouragement, posting motivational quotes, and I realized that I was really enjoying it, and I showed up well doing it. So I said, you know what? I think I want to be able to be a coach, and I start seeing some coaches doing their thing. I'm like, I see myself doing that. So I started by starting a group. So just people who just followed me. And I explained that was like a couple of years ago, I explained the group was more for, encouragement, women empowerment. So if you know someone that wants to be empowered, come to my group, whatever. So I think people were just following me because of who I was, and just basically want to see what I had to share, and just because they want to support me. But now, to answer your question about how I'm embodying it, now I feel like I really want to target a specific audience now. I feel like now, okay, I'm embodying really being a coach, and I want to speak to specific people. But my group is a mix of different people, family members, friends, but I can't differentiate, who in those groups may basically be a potential client, or maybe would really want to hear what I have to say, what I have to offer. So my question, that's how I'm embodying. So right now I'm trying to create content that would attract certain clientele or certain audience, but it's kind of difficult for me to figure out like the type of content to put out there, especially in my group specifically, because maybe some people just don't want to be coached, or they're not interested in what I have to say. So I really want to speak. I don't want to I don't feel like it's wasting my time, but I don't want to if you don't want to hear me, I'd rather speak to someone who wants to hear me. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to kick people out my group, but I just don't know how to go about that, So that's how I'm embodying. I'm really creating content now, trying to really my posts and my content is very specific to teaching, very specific to empowering. and I noticed a change in just branding. And now that I'm branding, trying to get my name out there as being a coach or studying to become a coach, I want to embody that 100%. So how I speak, how I show up. So that's how I feel that I'm embodying just what we're doing now into my daily life, and at home too with my kids and stuff like that. So I don't know if that answered your question. I know it was all over the place, but
No, it answers it. So you're
Okay.
already starting to embody that next level.
yeah.
By showing, because before you're like, I just kind of want to empower people, but now I'm like, I know I want to be a coach and empower people. So
Yes,
there's a
yeah.
difference between the two. And I think that's amazing. And I think that's definitely creates like a clear niche, which is beautiful. To answer your question with that, as far as like, yeah, I don't want to kick people out of my group. You don't have to like make an announcement, but you can start talking about your vision. You can start talking about your mission. You can start talking about the people that you want to help. And I feel like if people do not feel aligned with it, then they have permission to leave. Like they will leave if they want to. And if they
Okay.
stay, you don't have to even say that. You don't have to say, oh, leave, if you want to. You just talk about your mission, talk about what lights you up, talk about what excites you about it. And if people are like, okay, that doesn't feel exciting to me, they'll leave. And if they stay, then that's a space for you to still show up and fully show up at that next level self, because the right people will be attracted to it. When I moved out of the book writing space, and I still do a ton around book writing, that's definitely a big piece of my business, not as big as the coaching now. But when I moved out of that, there were people that got off of my email list. I had a very, very large email list. I want to say I had about, I think at the time I had like 5,000 people on my email list, and I had about 1,000 people not do it. And at first I felt really hurt about it, but then I was like, okay, well, I can pay money per subscriber. So that doesn't like that, I shouldn't be mad. And that created space for me to call in more of the right people. And so I think you just talking about what lights you up, talking about your vision is going to attract the right people. And the people that aren't meant to be there, they leave, and that creates space for the right people to come in.
Okay. And that just dropped in my spirit today though. As I was driving, I'm like, you know what? Like that was one of my questions I knew I wanted to ask. So it's funny that you asked how I'm embodying, and it actually just aligned with what I wanted to ask you. So that was it, because I was like, wondering, like, how am I going to do that? So now you kind of broke it down. So I'll just more talk about my vision, talk about, because they already know what I'm practicing, what I'm certifying myself for. Because I put it in there. They know I'm, NLP practitioner, all that kind of stuff.
Yay.
So maybe I can, so I named what a life coach and stuff like that. So I feel like would a good fit be like maybe talk about like what I'm learning or what I'm certifying myself. That can be an avenue to go to, right? Like, okay, I'm being an NLP practitioner. What does that mean? What does that look like? I could,
And
okay, so I
literally
do it
teaching
like
it.
that.
You literally can,
Yeah. Okay.
Germany was talking about this, and when she was sharing in her post in the group, she was like, I started to teach the things I was learning. And I do that all the time, because that's literally, I have a video in the program, inside the platform, that talks about that is the highest state of learning possible, is when you teach it, because you retain. It's one thing to listen. It's another thing to listen and maybe write. It's another thing to listen and think about it. It's another thing to listen and then to reinforce it, to teach it back. So as you're learning NLP, because I know you're going to go through masters. So I know you're starting to move through that like NLP part.
Yeah.
As you're moving through that NLP part, start teaching those things. Like one of the things that I'm going to post about tomorrow is, oh my goodness, I just made a whole graphic for it. Hold on, let me pull it up so I can remember. Oh, results versus reasons, like cause versus effect. Are you playing at cause, or are you playing at effect, right? And that's one of the foundational places. You could talk about that. You could talk about cause, cause versus effect. This is one of the foundational pieces of NLP. And this is when I knew that I loved it, because we are in control of our results. And this is like, so you can still weave what you're learning into what you're teaching, which will be really, really powerful, because there's so many concepts in NLP. I get like triggered. I get so angry by it. I teach these things to my daughters, because I'm like, I'm frustrated that I didn't learn this at such a young age. So I get lit up to teach it to other people. So as you learn it, start thinking of ways you can incorporate it into your lives, into your posts, or into this group, that kind of thing.
Okay, so that's good. That helped me a lot. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for that. Are you open to take some questions on my part? Can I ask? Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. So as you said, you mentioned earlier that I'm going through the NLP. Like I said, I want to go to master, so I'm going through that. And very interesting, very interesting. A lot of information. I'm using my checklist. So
Love it.
I've done, yeah. So right now I'm at video 7. Well, I'm done video 7. So I plan to finish the other videos this week. Because the plan was, I thought the meeting would have been Friday. So my goal actually was to have all those finished by Friday. So that was my goal, but it's still gonna happen.
Yeah.
You know, so then the next Q&A, I can ask some questions on that. But actually now the question I want to ask is, I know we have to listen to it twice. So yeah, so this is my first round, this will be my first round. So does that mean I have to do my second round before I jump into EFT, basically?
You don't have to do it before you do EFT. I would definitely recommend it before you do hypnosis, before you do the hypnosis.
Okay.
foundation study.
Okay.
There's a lot
Okay,
of stuff in hypnosis that builds from the NLP piece. The EFT and time techniques in EFT, you could technically get into those before you do the second round of NLP. But
Okay,
hypnosis,
perfect.
I wouldn't do that without getting into the second round.
Okay, good. Okay, that's what I want to know. I'm saying, you know, sometimes you want to kind of like detach your brain from the same information. So I want to kind of give myself a little break to do something else and to go back, because it's intense information, but good information.
Yeah.
So the next question regarding that is that the introduction to the submodalities, and which is all the switch patterns and mapping across. And I know that you gave us a global overview on it during the video, but how can I practice that? I mean, I know we have the classes and stuff like that. That's not what I mean, but like outside of the classes with Siobhan and stuff like that, how can I practice that? Like, just want to know more what it means. Cause I mean, I'm listening to the videos, I'm reading, but it's like, I want to see how the swishing pattern, I don't really understand it. You gave some examples, but I'm not too sure what that means. And then the disassociative techniques and the perceptual positions. I don't know if there's a script for that, because I was looking for a script. I didn't see a script unless I'm not looking properly.
For the perceptual position,
But yeah.
there's no script for that one.
Okay.
To practice
So-
it, you could probably ask first off, you could ask anyone in the group to practice with you. But I know
Okay.
like Alexis and Germany both are doing masters. And so they're kind of on that same timeline as you. And so I feel like that would be really good to kind of to get practice from them, especially because they're on that same timeline.
Okay.
And then if you want, which one do you have a question about? I could ask Siobhan, because we're narrowing down the 2 modalities, which she has 2 modality calls this month. If there's one that's really pressing for you, I can ask her to do that for one of the modality calls.
I would say the mapping across and the switch pattern, mainly because I know we did mapping across. We had a class on that, a modality call on that.
Did we do that?
Yeah, we did it. Yes, we did that already. Because we did it. But I mean,
We did that a while ago.
Yeah, we did, but I didn't even look at it in the book. I wasn't even there yet. So now that I'm doing, I'm like, okay, I'm remembering what we did in the call. So I'm like, okay, yes, it makes sense now. So for sure, it's like, okay, that's the whole thing with the graph was with the worksheet. So
yeah,
like
the
color,
submodality.
the visual. Yeah, exactly. So that I remember doing it. So when I was studying them, it came back very clearly what we did. So that we did. So it's I understand it, but I mean, need some more practice. But the switch pattern, I didn't see the dissociative techniques, none of those. It's just that one. So I would say everything apart from the mapping across, because I've done it. I've done it with the ladies already. Kind of. I will still get practice, but I mean, I rather do the ones I didn't even learn or see.
Yep.
And pretty much that's it. And the masterful language patterns, that's very interesting to me. I like it. I really do like it, but it's just I want to see more of it. And so basically I think this presupposition go with that. Is that what it is? The presuppositions, assuming the outcome and the different existence, possibility, cause, effect. Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. So it was a lot of information during those videos. So I'm like, okay, so I definitely would need to do it, of course, listen to it a second time to really understand it. So I think that's why it's important, like you said, to do it twice. But yeah, so that's where I'm at. It's interesting, but it's just to know the difference between a presupposition and a mind read. I was doing that and I didn't know which, so I was kind of listening to your answers to plug them in because I didn't know, I wasn't able to determine which one was a mind read. Some of them I got right because I guessed it, obviously. But then as you were going through it, I read and it made sense. Okay, if it's presupposition, this is what I have to look out for, but it's still not clear yet. So this is where I'm at, but it's a bit wishy-washy for me. So I just need more hands-on with that.
Of course. So it is supposed to be very
Yeah.
wishy-washy the first round. It is supposed to be like, it's like you ever watch like a movie and then you watch it the second time and you're like, oh, I missed all those clues. Like, oh my gosh, I can see how I missed that. That's what
Yes,
we're doing
yes.
the second time. As far
Okay,
as
so that's what it's like. Okay.
with Swish, I just wrote Siobhan like on our team chat. So we'll make Swish one of the techniques. I think you'll love it. And then what I would actually recommend for the mapping across, if you have time, is to go back and watch that replay. Because I think now that you understand it,
Yes, I'll do that.
you watch it, you'll be like, oh, because you got credit for attending that, which is good. But like going back and watching it now, I feel like it'll really solidify. And I would challenge you to also don't be scared to like try some of these things on your kids, especially your older ones. I did a lot with my older daughter, like just practicing and just trying to like get comfortable with these tools, get comfortable with the scripts. So don't be scared to try. Like, you know, if we do Swish, I think next week is the call. If we do Swish next week and then you're like, okay, I'm going to try that with my husband, or I'm going to try that with my daughter, or I'm going to try that with my son, or whatever. Like, don't be scared to try it, because the more you try it, the more it becomes like second nature. Like mapping across and Swish, because you are doing those eliciting the submodalities or whatever, it has to kind of go quick. So the more you practice it, the more you stop fumbling over your words or being nervous, you start to feel confident, and you can move through it a lot quicker.
Okay, perfect. And the last thing is, it was actually more an enlightenment for me. The hierarchy of ideas, the chunking up and the chunking. I know if some of the ladies were on, we were so confused that I was like, I was trying to like, how do I chunk up again? How do I chunk? I'm like, what? Siobhan had to show me, go slide. I'm like, what does that mean? I didn't get to that part, right? So I'm like, okay, so I'm just watching the ladies lead, and I just kind of like, I jumped right in and just kind of caught up. But as I'm learning it today, I'm like, okay, now I understand. So chunking up is more like a description, like a similarity. Like, okay, let's say, like you said, cars. Like what do cars serve? Like transport, travel, movement. And the chunking down is specific.
Yes, you're getting
right?
more and more.
Okay, that's what. So I wasn't sure. So now my question is the sideways. I don't know what the sideways is. That was what I was.
So let's say the chunking up was some form of transportation, and then you chunk down, and you're like, it has wheels, right? So sideways could be, if it has wheels, it could be a car, it could be a bike, it could be a scooter, right? Because they all have that same similarity. And then we chunk down a little bit more, and it's like, it has 4 wheels and it takes gas. So now we're down to, okay, it is now, it is a car, you know, like, so we've chunked all the way down. So sideways is where there's like similarities.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So that's
and the reason, we talked about this at the beginning of today. I was talking to them about Germany when she was talking about her client that like shares a lot. The reason that chunking up and chunking down comes in handy is because you're breaking your client's hold that they have. So if they're like, oh my gosh, this person like really offended me. They really offended me. Like now, okay, so let's take offense. How do we break offense down? How do we get more specific about like what that trigger is? So we're breaking that model that they have, that hold that they have, and breaking and really getting to the root of it. So that's where it starts to come in handy. And it becomes really.
Yeah, and I think I need to watch that one again too, because I guess the car example was easier for me to understand, but now like you mentioned the example of like, okay, let's say I'm overwhelmed. Now chunking up would be, I'm confused. I don't know what I would say for chunking up. Chunking down definitely was specific. So it'd be more like, okay, my kids, I guess. I don't know if that would be chunking down. I don't know if I'm overwhelmed because of my housework or whatever. I don't know.
Yes.
So it's just kind of trying to understand. So I may need more practice on that, but I'm not really thinking so.
You actually said it. You actually said it in your confusion. So let's say overwhelm is right here. chunking up would be like, maybe it's like confusion, like this person feels confusion. Okay, let's break down that confusion. What's under the foundation of that confusion? Overwhelm. I'm just taking in so much and I'm confused at where to begin. Okay, let's chunk that down. Where are you overwhelmed? Well, my schedule feels all over the place. Okay, what about that schedule feels all over the place? My kids, I just have so many obligations and I don't know which one to prioritize. So now we've taken that confusion to overwhelm, to disorganization, to procrastination, to like whatever. So we've now broken it down. That makes sense.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'll go back and watch that video also. But that's where I'm at, and I'm it's really interesting.
You actually understand a lot more than you think you do. Like as I'm sitting here listening, I'm like, oh, she got it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, so that's what it is for me. So thank you for that.
yes, exactly, Alexis. It's going from being vague to being specific. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Perfect. Thank you, Alexis.
I love that. Okay. I'll see if we'll take like one or two more questions. Alexis, did you have something?
I have a question. It's not about, because I haven't started anything yet, but where do I watch the replays, like the recorded videos?
Inside of Thinkific, inside, you still have your login, I hope. 'Cause that's
Yeah.
where everything is housed. At the way bottom, I have the modality call replays. And so
Okay.
all of those replays are housed in there. And then if you go in the event, or you can go in the events tab in Facebook. And if you look at our past events, I always post the link in there as well. So you can go
Okay.
in there and watch the link that way.
Okay.
Yep. And that'll be helpful, Shamika, since you haven't started yet. As you're starting and you're like, oh man, like let's say you're like Andrea and you're like, I don't understand what chunking up or chunking down is. Like, I just still don't get it. You could go in and watch that specific replay and say, okay, let me see these ladies like act it out, and then it'll start to kind of make more sense. And some of these things don't really make sense until you practice it.
Yeah.
Like you're kind of thrown to it. And that's why we have you practice it here in a safe space where everyone kind of doesn't know what they're doing and everyone feels overwhelmed or embarrassed or scared, but you practice it, you learn the tool amongst each other. And then that way, when you show up with your client, you feel more confident. Like, you know, Germany's now using all these tools in her 12 weeks. She has like a map of like what she'll be using each week, because she's now practiced different modalities and different things with friends, with her boyfriend, you know, with that kind of thing. So now she's prepared to go into this client session.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Germany, you can, Alexis, I'll have Alexis go and then I'll have you go, Germany.
So I realized I was going back through NLP, and I really appreciate going through it. This is my 4th time going back through it. And
Wow.
I'm writing. So I have this huge binder, and I printed it out with the pages where I can write in notes. And I'm finding myself writing in really, really good notes every time I go back through it. And I went back through it and realized, and I just wanted to know if maybe there wasn't a whole lot to go over on states versus outcomes and creating achievable outcomes, because I don't know. I just felt like there was some stuff that was missing there. So I wanted to kind of throw that out there and just ask if there was any way you could go through that and review that and see if there's anything missing. Because I remember listening like, oh, we went over this in this video. I'm thinking to myself, did we? And I had to go back and look like, I think there might be something missing, but I don't know. I felt like I was missing something there.
States versus outcomes is addressed in the life and success coaching, as well as creating achievable outcomes. So we touch on that a lot, because that's like one of the foundational pillars. Like when you're first bringing people in, like what is the difference between a state versus an outcome? What is the achievable outcome that they're working towards as far as this coaching package and the vision? So like even Germany did that. I think that was like one of her, like part of her initial session was creating an achievable outcome. So that's definitely addressed. And then also in the 5-day, so there's a 5-day training, which goes a little bit more in depth in each of the modalities. That goes more in depth with creating achievable outcomes, as well as SMART goals using the NLP format.
Okay. So then I look for that. Then I think I was, I'm looking for things that I guess happen in a certain order, and I was thinking like, okay, where's my notes on that? And then so what I was looking at my my schedule, and I read on the outline for the plan to go ahead and start the NLP test. So what I'm trying to understand is how I can, first of all, I don't know where the test is. I was looking for the test. I can't find a test. But I need to know, I'm trying to figure out what's the best way to break down doing the test along with going through back through the pre-study. So like right now, tomorrow I have set to go back through 5 and 6, but I wanted to start the test like yesterday and I couldn't find it. And I'm like, okay, so I want to be able to go through doing the test because I believe what you said on the outline. I read this thing word for word. That it takes 4 hours, but if we're doing it over time, it won't take 4. You know what I mean? So,
Right. You're doing
without,
it.
like I'm right. I'm trying to figure out how to do it, and I can't find it.
It's in the portal. All the tests have their own like section. I have the hypnosis test, the life and success coaching, and the NLP one. I just put the NLP one in the chat if you just want to like print it from that Google Drive link. And then if you guys remember, I remember Germany was answering, you guys were like, what is she asking? But she was asking some of these questions. So that's another thing you can bring too. So like, let's say we have a Q&A call and you're like, I don't know the answer to 13 or whatever. You can ask that, or you can even post it in the group, and we can like process and talk through some of those questions that are coming up.
Okay, so I was looking in the wrong place for the test, and the test wasn't where the lessons are. It was somewhere else.
The tests are like
Okay,
in a separate section where all 3 of them are together so that you can kind of like print them together. But it's around that same point in Thinkific where you have the lessons, not just with.
Got it. And so I also wanted to ask too about the hypnosis manual, because that's the very next thing that I'm going to get into. But I thought I printed this stuff out a while ago, and I just wanted to ask if it was something updated and it's separate from the NLP. It's its own manual.
NLP, you can use the NLP manual. Everything is in that NLP manual. If you don't want to do the hypnosis manual, but I can put that in the link too. I'll find that. The hypnosis manual.
I have it. I have the hypnosis manual, but I just wanted to know what the difference was between the information that's in the NLP and all the stuff for hypnosis under NLP versus the hypnosis manual by itself.
Yeah, no, I have
there any
the
difference?
manual will have all of the pieces. Like it'll have the Krasner script that you need to do the hypnosis sessions.
Okay.
It'll have everything.
Okay.
Just some, like, let's say, for example, so when I originally started, I thought I might separate hypnosis and just do it as its own certification and then do these. So that's why there's that separate manual. Or if, for example, you decide you want to go in a session and you only want a small little packet versus that giant 300-page one, you could use that hypnosis manual.
Got you. Okay, yeah, because I did print out this almost 300, 400 page. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Okay. And let me see. I think I wrote something down about human design.
Germany, Alexis, and Andrea too. Human design does not have to be done before masters. That part of the certification does not have to be done because there's not a second level to that. So if you start to feel kind of pressed for time, know that one is one you can kind of circle back to as well. We'll talk about it, like a mandatory piece of it.
Got it. Okay. Well, then I think that I might be done then with questions. I think, yeah. And if I have any more questions, I'll just ask them in the group.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool beans. Germany, you're up, girl.
Hey, okay, so with the human design, I have like 2 people up right now, well 3, that I have in line for human design readings, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to deliver results to them. So I ended up thinking about tiers, like, okay, I can offer them, and then you ended up saying it in one of the modules that we were doing, you ended up saying it, so it confirmed it. But tiers, so like a basic reading, and then I guess like an extensive reading. And I think I kind of extra a little bit too. But as far as like what do you consider like a basic reading? Because like for me, like I'm trying to like give them everything. Like I'm breaking down the sun, I'm breaking down the planets, I'm breaking down the numbers, I'm breaking down the channels, the gates, the the digestions, the error. I'm breaking down all of it. And I have so much information just right now on my one person. And when it comes to delivering the information, I noticed that the way you deliver your information, you will say, okay, well, manifesting generator, the way you need to get rest is like this, or, you need to do this. But I don't know how to word it in a way like, you best at this, So I guess I'm trying to figure out like basic readings and extensive readings. And I know you said you just jump on a Zoom call and do it. But I guess my question is like, how did you level out in your tiers or your levels of what was considered basic and then extensive? Yeah.
Love it. So I actually have changed my human design reading. So I used to do where they would, after they submitted their payment, it would take them to like a page where they had to fill in their birth time, their date, their location. So I had all the details, and then I would make the slides, and then I would jump on a Zoom call. I don't do that anymore. It just felt like, because me telling them all the stuff would take like an hour, and then it would take like 45 minutes of them asking questions. And I was like, that feels intense. So what I do now, actually, Erica got one of those readings from me when I initially started. And what I do now is they sign up, and then I send them a pre-recorded thing as I go through their slides. I give them suggestions, I walk through it, and then that is their human design reading. And then they have 48 hours to like voice memo and ask questions and stuff like that. So that creates more, it's not like 2 hours of my time. It's kind of, it creates more flexibility. So now the way that I do human design readings is, no, it doesn't have to be typed out. You can write it as long as I can read it, Alexis. So what I do now, Germany, is I do type, and I'll put it in here: type, authority, strategy, profile, incarnation cross. I feel like I'm missing something. Oh, oh my goodness, I can't think off the top of my head. So then I'll pull up
Channels, gates.
Okay, there. Channels and gates are all in my advanced reading. Channels, gates, environment, pretty much anything besides the basics. So like type, authority, strategy, profile, incarnation cross. Why can I not think of the decision making a strategy? Oh, non-self theme and signature. That's what I'm thinking of. So signature and non-self theme. So these are all the things that are included in my basic reading. And then my next level reading will include like your environment, will include the gates, will include the channel, will include like all of those intricate details. So that's my next level reading. And you'd be surprised how long, like type, authority, strategy, profile, incarnation, cross, signature, and non-self theme, that actually takes a lot of time to kind of like dive into and like speak about. So that's kind of how I break those two up. You could also break it up differently, where I know you just said you want to give a lot. So it could be like you give a lot, and then you create a session around you giving that, versus like you have a pre-recorded. So your tier 1 could be pre-recorded and sent to them. And then your tier 2 could be that you jump on the phone with them, walk it through, and then open up sessions. So tiers can look really different based on what feels good for you. I think a thing that I think is really, really important when I do this is I try not to just like teach. I want them to actually have, I don't want to give them just information, right? I want to give them something that creates transformation. So like when I did Erica's reading, one of the things we talked about was environment. And so I talked about like what her environment looks like. I think she was Shores. I don't remember, Erica, if you remember off the top of your head, but like with Shores, you need to kind of be in 2 environments at the same time. And so I told Erica, like set your office up in a way that you can see out of your window, but can also see into your house. It creates almost that 2 different environments all in one setting. And then I, asked her to like notice how her energy started to shift, notice how her productivity started to shift. So I gave her an actionable tool to walk away from. So that's another thing that I try to give to in each session, so that it's not just me throwing information, because it is powerful, but what is like some kind of action they can take?
Action, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it even could be like a signature moment. So like we all have signatures. So like my signature, I'm a manifestor. My signature is peace. So I when I do a basic reading, I'll say, okay, your signature is peace. What can you do today to create peace into your space? And how can you anchor that on a regular basis? Something like that. So there's still that actionable step, so they get something taken away from that reading.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Because I was about to make them slides. Like and those slides already are about to be overwhelming, because I have like 3 pages of information plus like 20 screenshotted like things, and I just stopped because I was like, this is way too much.
So I have to break it down into like what you're saying. So I was about to create my slides, but how many slides do you have? 'Cause
So
it's so many.
this is something that I did that saved my entire life. And I will give you this suggestion. It helped me repurpose. I made a tremendous amount of slides. I probably have about 200 slides, and it goes through everything you can think of. I have slides for all 5 types. I have slides for all the authorities, slides for all of the profiles, slides for all of the signatures, like slides for everything. So now when I have a reading, I pull from each of these slides and I create a presentation. So it took me forever. It probably took me a period of like 2 days to really compile and put together all of my information. And I made like ebooks too, which was like, so I was so extra. But anyways, I made all this stuff, and now it serves a purpose because when I'm creating stuff, I'm not starting from scratch. I'm like, oh, they're a generator. Perfect. Oh, their authority is sacral. Oh, perfect. I'm gonna pull this. Oh, their environment is shores. I'm gonna pull this, and I can kind of compile it. Now, I still find ways to make it personalized because I talk about kind of how all that comes together and what I want them to do based on like I know when Erica did it, she was talking a lot about like her business. So that's when we talked about, okay, I'm going to give her something to do regarding her environment. So it'd be productive to show up for her business kind of thing. So I still make it personalized, but the foundational pieces I already have done. So if you were, and I'm not saying you have to, but if you were to make the slides that you had in mind, understand that you have 3 people. You can probably repurpose those because you'll get more and more people, and then you can use those again.
And that's exactly what I was thinking to do. I was like, oh yeah, I got to figure out a way to repurpose it because I'm not about to make all of these for each person. But you said it. How do I make it personable? And that's what I was thinking. Like how you were saying rest and this and that. And I was like, oh, okay, how do I make it personal to what she's actually saying? Because people come to with these questions like, who am I? But I want to be able to answer something and give them an actionable step like what you're saying. So if I can pull from what I already have with that actual type and authority and all of those things, pull it out, give them information, but I'm also still able to like just feed them something that they can actually use for today. It'll make them feel satisfied or make them feel like they actually got something out of it, because information overload is a thing too that I don't want to give people information overload. Because as interesting as it is for me, it's just too much. Like it's too much for just someone coming in. Like it's a lot. So I want to be able to boom, break it down. And that makes a lot of sense. Okay.
And that's why you don't have to, that's why you don't have to have a slide with 7,000 words on it, because you will overwhelm them. Like when I first started, I thought it would be like, I'm like, they're not going to want to know about their type, strategy, authority, profile, incarnation, cross. And like, I thought that was too basic. And then I did a reading with my mom, my brother, and my aunt. And when I tell you they were blown, my aunt actually paid me. I did them all free. And my aunt was so blown away. She actually paid me. And I was like, okay, like people like this stuff. And then I started to sell them. And I realized like, even with that alone, when I was like getting on the call, people, those would still end up being an hour and a half long calls, because people were so fascinated with that information and how, like heard they felt like, oh my gosh, that makes so sense. I've always wondered that. And so you don't have to like sorry, I don't know why. I thought I turned on my do not disturb. You don't have to like overcomplicate that part of the process, because even those simple things that feel simple to you can actually be really insightful for your client.
Okay. Yep, that works. Thank you.
I'm excited. I know Erica talked about weaving human design into a lot of the work that she's doing too. So I like that you guys are trying that out.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
And to touch on the repurposing, I was listening to one of your podcasts, Dr. Napolia, and do that the workshop you have on repurposing and rest, I think. Is that what the name of it is? Yeah, I want to do that. Yeah,
in the portal.
It's from what you explained on the podcast. Huh?
I put it in the portal for you guys.
Sorry.
It's
okay, yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's okay, but it's you have to pay for it.
No,
it's a fee. Oh no. Oh, okay. Because I clicked on the link in the podcast and I was like, oh, $7. So I want to ask you about it, but I really wanted to do it. Okay, so it's there.
It's inside anybody who's the Elevate method gets it, because I want you guys to.
Oh my gosh, that is so amazing. Okay.
Because we're so special to her.
Yeah,
oh my God. I was like, I need to do this. I'm like, okay, so I click on it. I'm like, okay, oh wow, what a blessing. Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
I'm glad. I want you guys
Yeah,
to be able to like repurpose, because like you want business to be sustainable. And like I just told
Yeah.
Germany, like I don't want her to be making slides from scratch for every session she gets. Or even Germany, when you made that super dope client welcome packet, like now you have the bones and you use that and you build on that for that next client you call in. Now, it took a lot of time to build that first time, but now you just build on it as you continue to go. And that's what I want to teach you. I want that sustainability piece. That's so important. So yeah, it's definitely in there for you. So check that one out too.
Amazing. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we will wrap up for this evening. Siobhan wrote me back and said she will make sure Swish is on the next call. So you get your wish, which I'm really excited for you guys to do Swish. That's like, I like stepping into a new identity, and that kind of correlates with what we've been talking about today, like embodying that next level. So I'm
Okay.
really excited.
Okay,
So
great.
if you guys can be there, be there. It'll be really, really good. So,
Yeah.
all right, guys. Well, I hope you all have a great evening. Thank you so much for your flexibility. Sorry about all the crazy glitchy tech stuff. But I know you guys care so much. I'm like, they showed up and showed up. Like, I appreciate you guys so much. And Shamika in Germany, I cannot wait to hear the podcast. I want to hear it. So you guys let me know the moment it drops.
Ooh.
Let me know. But yeah, other than that, I hope you guys have a wonderful night, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right.
Y'all have a wonderful night.
Okay.
You
Bye,
too.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.